Hi, this is Eternal King bringing you another LOR video today. So I had someone in one of my videos ask me, where can I go to get up-to-date and new LOR decks? A lot of what's out there are old decks, and even established websites, basically all you have left in terms of established websites is Runeterra AR. Even Runeterra AR isn't particularly quick on the uptake when it comes to off-meta decks or even decks that are like statistically superior in terms of old decks. Runeterra AR is actually very slow on that uptake. They tend to be that website is exceptionally eddy heavy in terms of its statistical favoring, and it has a very hard time moving away from that. So my actual recommendation as the top player in Eternal, when it comes to finding interesting deck ideas, is actually to pay attention to what other top players are doing. So for example, this is a standard deck. Now, I'm not a standard player, so this is a case where you have to defer to someone who is better at the format. This is made by, Sir LOR, which I'm going to call him that for short. This is his deck, and it's, gloomy aggro. Feel free to look it up. And I looked at this list, and I was like, right away, I'm like, okay, this is a guy with 200 MMR and Masters ranked in Standard. And looking at the construction, I immediately knew that he was a competent player. This is not a skill that you'll develop like right away, being able to like eyeball people's lists and know if they know what they're doing. But in terms of playing LOR as long as I have, I can look at a list like this and just be like, yeah, that's just good. This is just a good deck. So again, when you have MMR that is 200 plus, that means that you have successfully learned to counter the eddy meta to a certain degree in the standard format. There's not a lot of great options in terms of how to counter eddy, so a lot of it has to be aggro, unfortunately. You're kind of, in Eternal, you can go hard control and just prevent the eddy's linear play patterns from ever occurring. And that's really good. So hard control is really good into eddy in Eternal. And then you have aggro decks as well. That also punishing eddy on either side of the spectrum is very effective. In Standard, you're basically hard locked to aggro punishes for eddy. So of course this is an example of a standard deck that is very good. It is new, it runs new cards, and it is successfully punishing what eddy decks do. Annie on 1, stable aggro card, Gloom Sprites, grants impact, pretty decent card. I've even been thinking about whether or not I want to be running Gloom Sprites in Ziggs Poppy. It actually might be worth running in Ziggs Poppy. It's a good one drop. It's the best out of the new one drops from the set, out of all of them. Legion Saboteur, staple burn card, Precious Pet. Again, you kind of have to be on Precious Pet because, again, this is standard. So you have to run certain suboptimal cards in standard. Precious Pet's not bad. It's not great. It's not bad. Glare, Grotesque Gift is a 3 of, Imperial Demolitionist, Legion Grenadier, Family Reunion. So everything about this deck is just automatically, to me, a good deck. You wouldn't have to like, I can look at this deck and just be like, yeah, this guy is Masters ranked. He is probably at a successful level of MMR, and that he is successfully countering the eddy meta. Therefore, he's worth paying attention to. That is basically the main mark of a good player right now in LOR. It's just like, can they successfully counter the eddy meta, or do they quit the game? that's basically the two options they have right now until eddy gets a little touch, a little love tap. Allay on 3, and then Noxian Fervor on 3, staple aggro card. Lightning Rush, again, you don't get Decimate in Standard, so you have to run suboptimal cards. Lightning Rush is like a Mystic Shot with a little extra value because you're like, bouncing your Imperial Demolitionist to push another 2. So it's like a 5 mana Decimate, but it's interactive, so it's not like quite as good. But again, suboptimal card choices for the limited card format. Vex, and then Vex Boat. You can compare this now. So again, if I consider, Sir LOR, Gloomy Aggro to be one of the best implementations of Vex at the highest of competitive levels in the standard format, piloted by a good player, what is the Eternal take on Vex? Well, the Eternal take on Vex is essentially to come at it from the other angle, right? So again, if he's one of the top standard players, I'm one of the top Eternal players. I come at it from the other end, right? So you go hard control. So Vex control. Again, we have access to a much better control package than Sir LOR, so we can come at it from the other angle, right? So Glimpse Sprites, you still run. Glare, you run Glimpse for the draw, because again, we're not an aggro deck. Grotesque Gift, you still run. Family Reunion, you still run. Allay, you still run. New stuff that you get thanks to this format is Crumble. So Crumble is one of the best Shadow Isles counters for Eddie. Period, full stop. I know that sometimes they roll Deathless, blah, blah, blah. Even with that being the case, Crumble's the best option you have. And the reason why that is because much like in the standard example we saw of aggro, he had cash outs, right? So he cashed out on Grotesque Gift by Noxian Fervoring the Grotesque Gift after it pinged something, by Lightning Rushing the Grotesque Gift so he could play it again and ping something a second time. He had cash outs for these, you know, they're not bad cards, but they're small cards. They're small chumpers that have a play effect. So these small chumpers don't trade well into Eddie, so you have to have cash outs. So you either translate the chumpers into burn, which is smart, again, being piloted by one of the top standard players, or you translate it into removal, which is the other end of the spectrum, which is what I'm doing with the Crumble. So just kill an ally to kill a unit or landmark. It'll kill Temple, which is a thing in Eternal. You need to have a way to answer Temple in a control package, and then it'll kill Big Eddie stuff. You know, you're pretty safe either way to be running this card. Kindred, again, can't run Kindred in standard, so I'll just show you. The Kindred package you just don't get. Kindred, again, is going to let you cash out even harder. When you kill one of your own units and kill something from the Eddie player, Kindred will kill a second thing. Very high value. Very, very high value in that matchup. Puzzling Signpost, again, I like it as a one-of. It's not it's like the worst of the counter spells in the game, but it's fine as a one-of because you get to basically use it when the opponent doesn't have enough mana to cast it again. So one Puzzling Signpost is fine. Vex Boat, I'm only on 2 Vex Boats. I'm not as big on Vex Boat in Eternal in terms of the power scaling in this format. Grim as a 3-of, 3 Vengeances, 1 Atrocity, so we can potentially get, you know, in case we need the Nexus interaction, we have it. Rekindler to resummon our champions, and then 1 full board clear in case we need it, in case the opponent does something really scary. So again, this is like an example of like, okay, where do I find the best decks? Well, now you have an example of one of the best ways to run Vex in Standard from a top Standard player. And now you have an example of one of the best ways to run Vex from one of the top Eternal players. And it really is a case of just like, you kind of just have to follow us and look and see what we're doing. Because if you go to Runeterra AR, you'll never find it there. It's just going to be the Eddie website, right? It's just like, it has to show off what is winning on average the most and what is winning the easiest. It is basically showing off autopiloting archetypes, right? So Eddie autopilots right now, and that is the power of this card. Even, I wouldn't even say that, like, he needs to be tweaked. He needs to function similar to a Jhin or similar to a Rise, where you need to run either 3 Elder Dragons in your deck to get boons, or you have to prioritize Elder Dragon and the Mulligan, so you get the boons, so he has to be in hand, like Jhin. So either way, there's like a little bit of a cost of running Elder Dragon. There's either a deck building cost, there's a mulligan cost, there's a little bit of brain thinking involved in running Elder Dragon. As it is right now, the problem with Elder Dragon is the only thinking you have to do is to mulligan away Elder Dragon in every single game. You don't actually want to have Elder Dragon in your Elder Dragon decks. So you mulligan away Elder Dragon in every single deck. You run either the most aggressive curve, like the most aggressive tempo curve, or you run the harshest ramp curve into what you're trying to do. Either way, you're not playing for Eddie. Eddie does not exist in his own decks, and that is why he is currently a small brain card. I would like him to be upgraded a little bit in line with the other Runeterra champions, so you actually have to do a little bit of piloting so this card functions. But until then, I'm not saying that the new cards are bad. I'm very pro in terms of the new cards. I think the story cards are great. I think Vex is a solid B or B+. Again, a lot of the new cards are quite strong. Even now, even with Eddie being as low skill as he is and autopiloty as he is, you know, statistically speaking, he is. That's why Runeterra AR is all Eddie right now. He is statistically a autopilot champion that is doing above average. Until then, you just have to follow what the best players are playing in order to counter Eddie. So again, you take the Vex on the control side of the spectrum with Kindred because I'm in Eternal and I have access to Kindred and I can cash out with Crumble, or you take it on the standard side of the spectrum and you cash out on Vex using burn cards, right? So you cash out on all these little chumpers, all these little units, you just cash out on them by translating them into burn damage with Lightning Rush and Noxian Fervor and Demolitionist. Either one is fine. As long as you have a cash out for Vex's units, either on the control end of the spectrum or the aggro end of the spectrum, Vex is fine. That is, that is the thing you do with Vex to make it more consistent. Is like, I know that Grotesque Gift is not going to auto win a game on his own. He's a 2-2. There's no world where a 2-2 auto wins the game. You have to have a cash out. It's the same thing with any other, style of cheap 2-mana chumper unit that isn't aggressive. You just have to have a cash out for it. But his effect is very powerful. This is Eternal King signing out. So again, a little shout out to another streamer that you can follow, who is probably one of the best players in Standard right now. Alternatively, you can follow me as one of the top players in Eternal. And if you follow either him or myself, there's a very good chance that you'll be getting access to decks that are powerful. One of the things to watch out for, however, is that all the other people who stream LOR, not myself, actually edit their videos. They edit out losses. So it's very important that you look at their MMR ranking at the beginning of the video and then watch it decline by the end of the video. That's actually the true instance of the win rate. So for example, if someone starts out at 280 MMR and then drops to 200 MMR, they're actually representing a negative win rate with that deck. Very important to watch out for that because, again, every single LOR streamer misrepresents their abilities. I'm the only person in the entire world that does not edit their videos, just clicks record at a random time, and I'm just like, here's a handful of games. Let me show you how that goes. And then later on, I'll report off camera what the averages were. Yeah, so again, watch out for that. This is Eternal King, signing out.